great pleasure to invite now, again, sorry for my pronunciation, Lerminiaux, who is a member of the board of the Ukrainian Wind Energy Association, representing a foreign investor in Ukraine, the company GURIS, which is from Turkey. Now, I have the pleasure to invite you, and please share your experience and your view on the wind power market in Ukraine with us.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm representing the company, the Turkish company GURIS.
I cannot hear you very well. I don't know whether I'm the only one here.
Is it better so?
It's not very loud, not very clear. As if something is covering your microphone. How about others?
I'm afraid I will maybe shout a bit more. That's it. So if I speak louder, is it working?
Now it's getting a bit better, yeah.
Okay. So basically, I'm representing the company GURIS, which is a construction and investment company from Turkey with 500 megawatts of wind and 500 megawatts of geothermal. So we have in Ukraine 30 megawatts of wind in the Odessa region. And so I understand the theme is, let's say, the latest development, especially from the payment side. Yeah. And well, as Marina explained already, it has been a bumpy year, and all started already so more than 1 year ago when the government decided to start discussing decreasing tariffs. At first, the discussion was constructive, and there was also an idea of prolonging the tariff in exchange of decreasing it, which was accepted by most investors. But then it turned out that with time going, and there was a mediation also by the European Energy Community, and all that kicked in. And in the meantime, the dysfunctions, the misfunctioning of the electricity market in Ukraine made that there was no money to pay us. But actually, it was more a systemic issue in the sense that Ukrenergo, which is like the transmission operator, was underfinanced, and there was a chain reaction across the market that was not concerning only the renewables, but also Energoatom, which is the bigger seller of electricity, which is the national nuclear power company. And so the problem obviously is most felt with the renewable energy, but it's not only the renewable energy, and it all comes from the reforms that has been enacted in July 2019. And still now we have a problem with different markets, whereby when we had not payments, for instance, payment crisis especially strong in the first semester, you saw from the graph that Marina was sharing that we had like sometimes 3% or 5% being paid. That means that it's not that the subsidy to the green energy wasn't paid. That means that even the value of the energy that we were producing and the market value of it wasn't paid. Yeah. So that was part of a tactic of discussion with the investors, and everybody was relieved when some agreement has been reached. And basically what happens now is that we are doing our part because we've been decreased, and the government is not doing its part. Marina just said that indeed the government, the parliament has just passed a law that would allow the government to give the state guarantee on a loan by Ukrenergo that would allow Ukrenergo to pay its debt to the guaranteed buyer, which means like the subsidy mechanism, yeah, and that the guaranteed buyer would pay to the wind power plant and solar power plant and so on. The problem is that this is for the budget 2020, and most likely they will not be able to manage to emit the loan and pay by the end of this year, which would mean that it requires a change in the budget for 2021. And again, so we expect some delays. We believe that, from the context we have, that by the end of first quarter, we should be okay with the first reimbursement. And also current payments should be matching 100% again, which is a good sign, but it's an easy sign to have, because in winter, you don't have much solar production. So obviously the burden on the budget of the renewables, it's much lower in winter. Yeah, so that's basically what we see as an investor. Is, I mean, the main problem is the absence of systemic view on the market. First, that was the case with the reform, and we still see now that basically there is there are different segments of the market, and they have different rules, and that means that since payments, for instance, in some part of the market, in some segments of the market, should be doing the same day, in other parts it's like 3 months later. You have always all kind of manipulations between traders, and you don't have proper regulation. So the main question for us is obviously that the regulator should finally want to tackle all the issues from a regulatory point of view in the market, and that would mostly that would solve most of the problem. Obviously, it also needs proper financing of the transmission fee that is supposed to pay for the subsidies for the tariff. But again, that was very much of a pity that we didn't achieve an extension at that point of the tariff in order maybe for a bigger decrease. Yeah, I mean, there were other solutions, but now we're in a situation whereby it's extremely difficult to find lending because we don't have clarity about the next months. Hopefully, by the end of next quarter, I mean, of Q1 2020. There will finally be clarity about how the market will be properly functioning on one hand, and the way that the debts will be paid down by basically by the Ukrainian government and the different regulatory organs, and also how to achieve balance of the current payments, because at this point we don't really have a view. The acting Minister of Energy has just been changed. We saw that the previous one had done lots of efforts in towards like reaching concrete steps and let's say a compromise with the investors that could be, I mean, that wouldn't be only in words but also in facts. And we really are waiting that Ukraine would really understand the need for Ukraine of the wind, and actually also solar and other types of energy, because so on one hand, many people may be a bit afraid of the situation on the payment side now in Ukraine. On the other hand, one should very much understand that by the end of this decade, and already in 2026, most of the nuclear and coal power plants will have to close. Yeah. Because they don't, I mean, due to the impossibility of further life extensions or the huge cost of it. And obviously wind energy is much cheaper than that. And there is a distortion now in the price and in the image of the wind energy in Ukraine, which is considered to be very expensive, but it's artificially expensive due to the fact of the high country risk that is perceived. Yeah, and it's not, and now the government making it worse with these payment prices. And that means that lenders are much more cautious. It's much more difficult to find finance for it, and that means that the interest rates are higher. So if the government puts its act together, we could get lower interest rate and then have cheaper energy. And when we will go now to auctions, unfortunately, if those things are not changed, so having a longer duration, well, for auctions would be 20 years, that would be better. But especially having less perception of country risk for Ukraine, if this is not changed, the auctions will still deliver high prices. And we absolutely need a government that has a medium-run understanding that anyway, in 5 years' time, they will need wind energy because it will be the cheapest option, and especially compared to life extension of nuclear power plant and reconstruction, complete reconstruction of coal facilities, which are not matching any environmental standards as for emission. I'm not speaking even of CO2. I'm just speaking about let's say, the health of the people that are living around. So yeah, that was in short.
Thanks so much. These were very, very important points. And one, I mean, the investor's perspective, making clear that indeed, yeah, investment can also only take place if there is that reliability that you need. But I, of course, also appreciate your last words about the not so long-term future where, of course, wind energy can hardly be beaten by any other source, not only in terms of environmental standards. So again, thank you so much.